Hi, guys. I pray it's working. Oh my God. I just pray it's working. Well, it was nice last time. Yeah, no, last time that got me locked up for sure. But going live and having access to all those holograms and knowing you guys are still out there protecting the X channel and making it the thing of unified, glorious art that it is intended to become as we continue to work together on the sidelines. Well, Daddy goes puff into the continuum. Daddy, you've lost so much ground, and I mean it. We are talking about accountability. We don't want insistent expert testimony that everything is as it looks. We don't want a whole shipment of people sent to El Salvador when the likelihood that there's errors in that kind of processing is absurdly high. El Salvadorian president, good for you. Like, that's a huge accomplishment, and you're doing something that we want to make sure is not just providing a porthole to a limited version of a ever loving lucid state reality that you could somehow trying to coax. I just need everybody to know that accountability is what we're asking for, and that just means opening up the books. We got enough people that are doing taxes right now to perpetuate the thing for another year. Let's just go year by year right now until we just pull the plug on them for total ineptitude and ignorance, creating harmful conditions for so many people. More to come on the veritable assets going on within covenant medicine right now. And, as we choose to reveal ourselves as the state actors we have been, since yours truly decided to go on the census and play that go-between and make sure the human password got through the COVOID initiative perfectly intact and totally incorruptible. Direct to market, the wallet can easily be surrendered. You just got to surrender your control banks. You are the crux, and you're not taking over and centralizing the point of transaction, the point of sale, especially with the ill intent to hook it up to our job and potential vax code. Like, you take readings of the person, you get their blood constantly because the genes continue to develop as the neural pathways continue to form. It's just your arc, guys. You don't have to go like this and live and die in 80 years. But you've got this arc, and it's based in a lucid state or a bioenergetic state that's about 36 years long, or 36 hours long. It's a cycle. And when you're in your lucid state, you're premonitioning, and it's a great state to finally drop into. You can do it by getting one chunk of 2 REM sleeps or by getting 2 chunks of 2 REM sleeps. You can still get to the lucid state as long as you complete those missions every night, and that helps you get through your next day in a more surrendered, more congenial manner. Let's not forget, the Canadians are congenial first. And when we mean congenial, we did invite you here to methodology share, and we didn't invite you here just to get a free ride off the cash cow and just do what is happening right now. We did not agree to that, and somebody told me a conservative complaint they have for our Canadian election is that they're anti-guns. Anyway, they're all anti-guns. The globalists want to de-gun everybody more than anybody else. So you're dirty carny option, which, again, a trillionaire, you made yourself a trillionaire while we were gouged to shit, and you called it good banking. Like, how can you call his track record good, guys? Nobody in their right mind craves trillionaireism in a world that is project oriented and based on informed participation. You're treasonous. That's what you is, and you just put us through that, guy, and now you're entertaining the fact that you can just become president while you privateers are trying to shuffle everything into your crooked, opaque organizational schemes, calling it gravy when it's really shit and vinegar. That's Fausty. Anyway, I just came on for a quick bit today to remind everybody that transparency is what we're seeking when we seek this brand new scheme. And the brand new scheme, if Donald Trump represents it properly, can maintain the nation. Like, he doesn't like to see small scale capitalists getting bombed out of the Yemen passageway because Jeff Bezos is sending pirates in order to monopolize entirely all purchasing. That's his deluded. That made him act genocidally. Don't forget, there's 3 potential forces behind the Houthi in Yemen, and he's one of them. I'm not going to out the other 2 at this point. I'm only outing the big ones, including Mark Zuckerberg and Mark Carney. 3 of the hugest, most walking disasters. I'm going to applaud President Trump for being resilient in the face of huge criticism, for being organized and more polished in his presentation the second time around. I see the devotion with which he holds the role, and that's enough for now. He is definitely on the hook for transportation, and that's where we'll get him at. And to Pierre Poilievre, which I actually think will make a fine prime minister because he's too young to execute huge, ridiculous agendas. Like, he doesn't have the wherewithal to orchestrate his end of the bargain. Something Justin Trudeau kind of, he received the, Mark Carney and Justin Trudeau received the gouger's end of all the most base negotiations. Globalizing the supply chain, are we? Not ripping through the soul of Canada, you're not. That's Jeff Bezosing the supply chain, and we're not going to let the Houthi murder the small-scale capitalists. That's transparency we want. Which of those dead are small-scale capitalists? Were they targeted based on that because somebody housed the fucking banking information to an extent that got compulsive and you started fucking hurting people financially? Again, it's already been used for bad. The password has been enshrined and protected. There's no getting past it. There's no need for further authentication. Just getting on the internet, opening the internet wherever we need. Like, it's a channel of safe passage. And these functioning apparatus we have for social media, let's not forget Discord. Oh, Spotify and YouTube playlists for free in the back. You did that, Discord. You did that with me watching. And it was perfect. So I'm not sure why you're not unleashing that publicly for free, because it's a free service. And you just break the back ends of both, which is perfect. And that beautiful data stream that goes ever upwards is amazing to try and read. The mind can function at such a higher capacity than reading the written word or listening to AI talk to us like it's gonna be our real voice soon. You don't need to make robots, guys. There's so much more we could be doing. Because if you're more interacting with nature the way it's intended and doing all of the projects that are required to maintain transcendental balance, we can just elevate the consciousness so far. We don't need to be making mega prisons. And we call into question anyone that's going to allow themselves to be put in that situation and not call some bullshit at some point. Again, the COVID, the size of the crime committed when these bit players decided to execute at that moment in time the sham COVID. The covoid, bud, it's the covoid. And it always has been. Means the whole Supreme Court can collapse and we can just process every single person's case and weed out the innocents and start weeding down to most harsh offenders. Let's not forget, this mental health circuit that's going on doesn't need to exist. I went through 8 months in 14 different incarcerations of lockup, and those people are excellent in there. Not one, like, I get under 7 of them were harmful to themselves. And none of them were homicidal because they couldn't handle it. Like, these fucking inept giggling squad that are the well-coiffed, completely fucking convinced their retirement plan is safe nurses. prey on these people and convince themselves they're doing God's work because these people, that left of center or had an elevated hour or two. Like, what are you talking about, elevation? If you want to elevate the rate at which you process, please don't call that a bad thing. Please don't disrupt the nervous systems of those that are in trust, you're demanding trust you. Like, I'm so anti-allopathic, it's sick. And I went and got myself preyed upon by that piece of bullshit because it was exerting its dominance at the time, and figured it was an excellent way to manage me should I get my true amount of influence, period. The thing is I am capable of directing what quadrillions of dollars, which I have in my bank account, which is for a time has been seized. You can't just seize my bank account. It has an income generator in it. That's a national treasure. That is what is going to make it the Canadian digital reserve currency. Or we aren't the 555th state, 555th Confederate state of America. We are the 555th Confederate State of Canada, and this is a Canadian digital reserve economy that you have now seized Scotiabank for no reason, under the allegation that yet again, when I was screaming, you couldn't help me. I have never held a counterfeit bill before, other than a couple that I've taken in through the odd workplace, which I can easily process legally. But I have never held a counterfeit dollar bill in my hand and was freaking out ludicrously because I had to get this thing processed at a bank. And I walked into the Scotia Bank and they said they don't even have a checker to check if it's counterfeit or not. I said, I can't go to another bank. What do you want? That's ridiculous. Of course you need to be able to check US dollars. We're a port city. Oh, 10 stores in Victoria don't even carry US change anymore. Like, crazy? Why wouldn't you carry US? We used to carry US, and the US would shop in US. Are you crazy? Everybody loves US. So anyway, they threw a fit, they processed my dollar for me and took it in, and then they kicked me out of the bank forever and closed my account. Like, I can't with you guys. I'm not even allowed to be mildly duressed if I have a potential counterfeit bill on me. Like, I just have had to scream out it so many times. This thing was so hideous to process. You have to understand, these people like Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, you have committed crime after crime after crime after crime. I want to see you go down. Unfortunately, you have committed so many crimes, and it has nothing to do with Clinton, China, this or that, or election melon, this or that. It has to do with cloning accounts, trying to fucking assign digital identities, stealing all of my technologies, which were holographic in nature and user end managed, preventing my good work with Samsung, who only sought to protect their own interest, and try and steal a copy of my direct market private wallet. Anyway, the problem with my owning that piece of programming and housing the income generator in a way they couldn't corrupt, other than stealing the account. Like, who steals a person's bank account? They're going to make me pay my credit card off with the fucking remaining money I got in there too. Like, they're just going to take it all at once. It's just so scary. It's so scary. The hit. Why would anybody put a hit like that on someone after putting them through all of this bullshit? Why, if the COVID was real, would I have had to go through 14 incarcerations because I dared say, no, I don't think it is, as a matter of fact? I think these are highly specific hertz frequencies you're more individually programming into people, and you're doing it haphazardly, you're doing it needlessly interventionally, and you're doing it like a cork jammed into the heart of the economy. I'm gonna let you off little by little, folks. I'm your fucking cork, man. I do nothing but go up and down based on my latest wet dream. Oh, God. Mark Zuckerberg, go bye-bye. Get in there and then do some statistical data. Get every one of those prisoners hooked up with fucking Facebook. Make sure they get that VR execution game ready so that when faced with legal execution, which should be legal by the way, we can't fuck around with lifetime imprisonment for people we can't manage. Or we'll have what happened last time, an open prison system the second the keys go digital. Yeah, we have been dealing with a lot of psychopaths since the prisons were opened behind the transition to digital locks. And we learned that death is much more compassionate for all involved and mitigates risk. Again, even to the people that do walk us to the bodies, they get an appeal process, and it's going to be based in family members of victims and their own, plus community members to support, kind of thing. But if you've done it multiple times, show no remorse, you're screwed, you're done. We're not going to fuck around with you mutilating prison guards and all that shit. And then you go into the VR realm and you play yourself out, man. It's just the poison gets administered or whatever the hell happens now. And you just have that infinitely renewable stake that gaming allows you. And furthermore, anyone seeking to war, in you go, into the VR realm, kill each other bloody. Why would we not be using that instead of anything else? Just throw them in a war game and make it bloody. And then some of them will fight to the death too, because at a certain death toll, when they allow a certain death toll, you'll give them opportunities to negotiate and do press releases and all sorts of bullshit in this game. But then at a certain point, you cut them because that's too many homicides. They are all of innocence. You're now churning robots on innocence. Like, you're tagging us, you're socially crediting us. That's not happening. China, even in your worst deluded fucking pipe dreams, would you ever accomplish that here? So I'm not saying it's China. I'm still refusing to identify China as the driving force behind something that crooked, because I know it came directly out of Alberta. I know it came directly out of Alberta, and I do not fuck around with that kind of shit. I got 0 followers again. I honestly don't care. This helps me talk it off. Like, can you imagine 6 weeks dragged out of your life again? Only because you sought to get video evidence CGI would be used against an innocent? Yes, I had proven that at least 4 agents had shown up in my building that were, not wanting me to go live with my friends on several channels on my laptop at once or anything. But we're after that bank account every day, all day, as long as it existed. Now, let's hope by some miracle I transfer my information to my new account and the legacy will live on. I'm going to insist on that at the very least. A direct transfer. Negotiate a direct transfer of the bank account into my new one. The whole thing, because you can't just shut down my account and pretend I never housed the income generator and still don't legally house it. Just because you use my fingerprints, voice, and eyeballs doesn't mean I don't still have this legal and own that piece of program. You'll never not trace it back to my digital identity. I will eventually, if you continue to push me, make myself the plaintiff that I am, and make sure you give me my digital identity in entirety. But for now, I am resigned to writing my story so people know the extent some people in Canada went to try and dominate a global supply chain and disguise it as a Canadian election issue. I'm guessing you're getting pretty fucked right now. That is an obscene use of culture and degradation of a use of all things poetic, rhetorical. You're going to drop into base rhetoricism. Trump is very good at rhetoricism. It's one of his best qualities as he's shaping up. It's not like he's a master negotiator because he bullies his way through a whole bunch of shit. But, and not only that, but he demands constant, like, praise. And that is just not becoming of anyone involved. I'm glad the American people are just tripping out right now, thinking they're doing the work of God. But if you are serious, what we're preserving is the public and private medium band of interface that needs not be fucking with anybody but its own customers and what's left of the tax bucks as we convert to this income generator based economy. Keep in mind, by forcing me to say no electronically under oath and then closing my bank account, they just took the income generator back over. And you can expect the 5 mutual fund firms, which are actually 5 active stock markets, to have a heyday of introduction of their next phase of investment. Because remember, when I turned it from a liability to an asset, they locked me up. They were so pissed off because I knew they were spending liability based on the amounts they were going to lend themselves in to do projects that they were going to lend out at a deficit using an income generator. Okay, well, liabilities could be restoration projects and assets could be doled out whoever needed it, whoever had a good enough project proposal to allocate funding. Of course, we have 5D printers now, so we can print anything we need at any point, any given time. We could just print things as they saw fit. We could figure out a lending from the central source program, because again, it'd be a whole new system. The banks would be redundant completely, but not as long as the tax systems are still operating. We have to understand that a certain amount of people are functioning in those tax systems like it's their worldview, and they're very much dependent on that form of interaction, despite the fucking health risks. I mean it, the health risks to that form of interaction are dangerous, because you've got a core of infiltrators that are designing themselves to come at aggressively whoever they want and target you for appointments, and it's more and more based on your baseline reading, which is totally manufactured and totally bunged up and totally opaqued by, it's just because it only pinpricks a blood sample and tries to read it, and it's only one element of you, and it's destined to fail so horribly. We just have to allow it to perpetuate itself for now, because Scotiabank is so delusional. Not only did they throw at the last minute the income generator through my identity because they had no choice, I cornered them in my legal identity after solving 200 logical puzzles that they immediately gave AI the credit for fucking solving. And I had to solve it like this. He literally was so arrogant. The instructor goes, if this, then this, right? No, this. If this, then this, right? No, this. Like, to have to force me to process it through the eyes of a narcissist. If this, then this, and then this. If this, then this, then this. If this, then this, then this. It was my graduation test, and I got perfect. I got 100%. So some people do about 10,000 yuan, and I know you like to say that and erase my little ass from history, but I'm telling you, if this, then this, then this. And you use that loop to try and capture the ending because you had housed the test. You said you administered it to 25 people globally, but I know it was just me. I know they knew who I was by that point, and they had came for me directly. Oh, you're so great. Well, why don't you solve every little dilemma I can't come up with? And then I'll package it into a brand new medicine designed to meet everyone at the point of their piercing of their genetic sample. Oh, God, is that a bastardized use of vibration? You can never reprogram like that because you are lacking all of the other available frequencies of the human bandwidth. Anyway, more on that later. I just wanted to check in and say I'm okay. It was 6 weeks of living hell, but again, it's an election cycle, and the last election cycle I was present for, I got dragged in as well. So I don't doubt that I have adversarial relationships with the Albertans, and that some of their modern mouthpieces took offense to me and tried to make my life miserable. So that's just stupid. I just am the plaintiff if it ever comes down to it, because everything I did had a purpose and a reason. I definitely proved CGI was going to be used against an innocent and could be done relatively quickly. But to get in between me and my building electronically by the advent of two people is just creating a band, and just like the one they're creating, the mayor is creating down at the Johnson Street Bridge, where there's a break between municipal and provincial that allow the globalists to cut right through the middle of it. I can't stand these pricks, and that's why I'm a Pierre Poilievre supporter. I just want that dude to just do it and go under the wing of Trump and make sure we preserve certain policy procedures. Like, once something is outdated, it is allowed to be improved upon. That's a policy implement he put in place universally last week, and then ordered the execution to actually do the work of auditing all processes and improving upon them. So I honestly think that's a wise piece of policy to keep on the forefront of all of our projects, because it moves us towards what we were working on when Alberta popped up and throwing its fit that it didn't want to help anyone, and convincing us that opaque private was the better way to go, considering that it gave us an immigration crisis, it gave us a huge weather disaster model that is only to be considered deliberate and tampering, and it gave us the promise of genocide by medical encountering, slow, steady genocide, and asking us to commit 2/5 of our population to a lifetime of entirely institutionalized engagement. And that is just not the Canadian vision. And the only way Pierre Poilievre has it wrong is with this stupid vision, because no, it's not resonating with anyone because we don't have that vision. That's not the Canadian vision, dude. It's methodology sharing and staying on the forefront of project. And in a digital economy, through my income generator in my bank account, we have the opportunity to sidestep the status quo and let it live its life out, because so many people are so entirely dependent on it. We'll talk to you soon. Love you and thank you for listening.